again, welcome to part 5 of our AI for SDG series here at the United Nations Association, a part of the UN Foundation based out of Washington, D.C. This campaign particularly is where we explore the synergies between AI and the different SDGs. It's a 17-week long campaign. As the name implies, we are going through and diving deeper into each SDG space over these 17 weeks, the 17 different SDGs. And today, this week, is our 5th part of the campaign where we discuss gender equality and the issues surrounding the different gender disparities around the world, between different regions of the world, and the different facets and aspects of this gender disparity issue that we face in the modern day today. And our wonderful panelists, Alexa Pascual is a Global Goals Ambassador. Glad to have you, as well as Sanskriti has been very, very involved with UNA USA in the past years, and now is a quantum product manager at IBM. Glad to have you as well, Sanskriti. Kome, thank you for being able to join us as well. You, along with Sananshi and Diana, were CSW 69 delegates this very recently, a few weeks ago in New York City at the United Nations headquarters. And very, very glad to have you guys as well. And I would love some perspective on what you guys got to learn, how the sessions went at the UNHQ up in the city. And lastly, we have Aya Tasi, one of my really good friends, as well as a woman CEO and founder of her own media company, Arab American Times, as well as Click Inc. Media. Hey, Aya, glad to have you as well. And let's kind of get started. Let's begin with some speaker introductions. I know my introductions definitely did not do justice for the amount of work and the contributions that our fellow panelists have had in the field. So I'll go ahead and get started. Alexa, please feel free to introduce yourself. The floor is yours and your contribution in the SDG 5 space.
Hi, my name's Alexa. I'm from Washington, D.C., but I'm originally from New York. I'm a grad student at American University focusing on global security and national security as well. And I'm an intern for the State Department, actually, for the Bureau of Conflict and Stabilization Operations. I've been involved with the UN space for 3 years now. Actually, I'm part of an NGO that's affiliated with the UN. It's called DM Foundation. It's how I got into like UNGA and the UN High Level Political Forum, as well as the World Bank annual and spring meetings. Yeah, so I've been advocating for women's peace and security and the importance of having more women at the field of foreign policy and national security, which is predominantly male. So I also focus on energy security and trade agreements. Yeah, and I'm here today as your SDG 5 Global Goals Ambassador. I'm really thankful for the role. I'm really looking forward to continuing, the fight for women's empowerment and to raise awareness about the importance of the women's peace and security agenda. So yeah.
Glad to have you, and the policy lens that you bring in, starting from the State Department to the World Bank and your own orgs as well. We'll definitely dive deeper as we go. And if you want to popcorn over to one of your fellow panelists, please feel free.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. So I had to let's go with Kome.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Hi, Alexa. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you, Rakib. So my name is Kome Igbogidi. I'm a senior product manager who specializing in AI platform and conversational experiences. I currently lead the agentic AI and conversational experiences at my organization ServiceNow. Well, beyond my work in the AI space and as a product manager, my passion has always been leveraging artificial intelligence to create meaningful conversational solutions that can enhance user experiences and how to drive a societal impact. So beyond the work that I do professionally, I I'm very active in advocacy for empowering the next generation and champions of sustainable development goals through my role as the co-program coordinator as the UNA NCA Young Professional team, and including my recent involvement with the at the CSW 69 representing the UNA USA, where I really gained meaningful insight into gender equality, digital inclusions, and how AI really can amplify women's voices in sustainable development. So it's an honor to join you all today, and I'm looking forward to using my voice to really accelerate the goal of artificial intelligence and its use and how to foster even achieve the goal of the SDGs in 2030. So that's all about me and really glad to be here. And I would popcorn IR if she's here.
Hello, hi guys. My name is Aya Atassi. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., but I'm originally Lebanese and Syrian, and I'm a recent graduate of the George Washington University School of Business. It was an amazing experience. And I'm a business owner and public speaker, and I have a couple of startups. So I work in international business development, crypto, marketing, wide range of things, nutrition and cosmetics as well. But my goal in life and what I work towards every day is really to empower youth and women and showing that if I can do it, you can do it too, and building a community to empower each other and grow together. So that's everything about me. And I'm really excited to be here today with all of you guys. I will popcorn to who hasn't spoken yet? Because it's not, I can only see like me and two other people. Rakib.
I can go.
Okay, awesome. Popcorn
Yeah.
to Diana.
Okay, so my name is Jana Godinho. I'm from Brazil, but I'm currently pursuing my undergraduate studies in the United States. I was part of the Brazilian delegation on CSW 69 that happened just last month. So we did a study, I did a study on youth engagement, and how it is hard for girls in Brazil to access higher education, and present that to the Minister of Women of Brazil for youth voices to be incorporated in the Brazilian statement that was sent to the United Nations. So I did this work with other young person who was also at CSW. So I do this type of work engaging young people and engaging girls in education and talking about the barriers they face on accessing higher education. Like, yeah, I don't know who haven't went yet.
I can go next. Awesome. So my name is Sanskriti Deva. I am by training a computer engineer and an electrical engineer and a quantum computing and artificial intelligence researcher. I was also the youngest elected official to the UNA USA National Council when I was 17, and I was the Global Engagement Summit Chair for about 2 to 3 years. And as mentioned, I am now a product marketing manager at IBM working in quantum computing, and my job pretty much focuses on translating a lot of the research and the technology that's coming out of IBM Quantum and doing launches for that technology. Outside of that, I am a fierce advocate for women in STEM. My own major, the ratio was 9-to-1 men to women. And so I've been doing a lot of work in enabling grassroots movements across the world and making a change for that for women in technology. And I'm so honored to be here with you guys. And then I'll pass it over to Sananshi.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Sananshi. I go by Sana. Thanks, Rakib, for having me here. I'm a third-year student at UCLA. I'm originally from India, and I'm a computational biology major. My interests intersect at biotech and especially women's representation in research. So as we know, with AI taking off, we want to incorporate it as much as possible in delivering accessible healthcare for people. But there's a huge issue when it comes to reliable data sets, because many of them are really male dominated. So my work, or at least what I hope to achieve in the next few years, is making sure that it's more equitable and that there's enough representation for women as well when it comes to tools like these. Otherwise, they're of no use if they can't be reliable. And I do a lot of research. I work at the radiation oncology lab, and I'm helping them develop AI tools in order to do targeted radiation for cancer patients. And we have recognized that the number of female patients that we have and that we can use for reliable testing is really few. So hopefully in the next 5 to 6 years, we can fix the gap and make it much easier to incorporate women as well.
And I think that concludes the speaker introductions. I want to apologize for cutting out in the middle for a sec there, but Sananshi, thank you for ending it on a great note. And I would love to dive a little deeper into everyone's sort of experiences and initiatives that they've taken from their own respective spaces. And Sananshi, you did mention a very, very cool insight where the idea of data disparity comes in and ties well with the idea of gender gaps. And could you tell us a little more? And I feel like me personally, coming from an information science system sort of background, and as a male in a male-dominated field, it's not something that was very much highlighted in my own work of research or the works that I have been involved in. So I'd absolutely love to know a little more, and I think I'm not alone in here. So yeah, I'd love to be enlightened a little.
So as you guys might know, most research that has been done in the past was unfortunately done on white Caucasian men. So most of the outcomes and the data sets that we have only correspond to white Caucasian men. And even though now we have researchers who are trying to expand into other demographics, it's really difficult because, again, medicine is the kind of field where, especially now that there's so many ethics and policies surrounding how we can do clinical trials, etc., and how people must volunteer in order to actually be included in a trial. So it's really difficult to make sure that we have a diverse set of people, mostly because there's so much red tape around it. But at the same time, there are efforts being taken in order to incorporate more races, all the genders, etc. But it's not keeping pace with how AI is working. Because again, as you all may know, data sets that the AI uses is in large quantities, right? But when it comes to medical research, we have, say, 200 participants for one study. How do you make sure that you can scale it? And while scaling it, also make sure that it's reliable and that it's accurate. It's next to impossible to come up with accurate models unless we have large amounts of data, which is really difficult to acquire in the first place. And the data that we already have is really skewed. So these are issues that we're facing. And I think change is happening, but it's really slow just because of the nature of how the data is collected. So yeah, that is something that we need to work on.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much. And I feel like Sananshi being as a woman in STEM, working at IBM now on specifically the quantum field, do you notice a similar sort of disparity, a similar level of gap in the respective field as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think oftentimes when technology is exponentially growing, and we've seen it, like a lot of us have grown up with technology and we went from having a flip phone to having access to the internet at like 13 years old. Um, and with that exponential growth, public policy in the public sector and conversations about technology for good are often left behind. But with quantum computing, there's something really exciting happening actually that's never happened before. And what it is that because we've noticed that technology is exponentially increasing, we're having these conversations way before we would have had them before. And so actually right now is the International Year of Quantum. And that's an initiative by the United Nations. that IBM has been a large part of, and I've also been helping drive a lot of initiatives within that. And we've already started having conversations about how can we relate quantum computing to the SDGs. And right now we don't even have a lot of use cases for quantum computing yet. And so a lot of times what we're doing is we're going out to public policy makers, we're going out to people who know about global issues, and we're asking them, what problems do you think we can solve with quantum computing? And so as a part of the International Year of Quantum, one of the things is quantum for the SDGs. And we're looking at specific SDGs, and companies are partnering with nation states or UN agencies to figure out those solutions. And so I think with quantum computing, the social good aspect of it is at the forefront, but there is still a gender disparity, especially when you look at workforce development and you look at the majors that people who would go into quantum are studying, like physics, electrical engineering, computer engineering, mechanical engineering. And oftentimes that problem is twofold. The first is just getting women to enter this field, and the second is retention. And so a lot of times there's a lot of material about women in STEM when someone's in high school, but when you get to college, you're hit with the reality that there's a large gender disparity. And it's hard to stay in the major when you're constantly being told you're not good enough or that you don't belong here. Like, I had an advisor tell me that I was not smart enough to even be in my major and told me to drop out and switch to something that would help me have a family. And I had a 4.0 at the time. And turns out a lot of other women had the same experience. And so one of the things we did was start an organization at my university called Women in Electrical and Computer Engineering. So that way, people who didn't have a place to go had a community they could lean on. And so I'm a big proponent of these grassroots movements, and anyone can start them. And so if you're someone on this call who is a woman in STEM and feeling alone, know that there's a community out there for you.
That is very, very inspiring on its own. And I'm glad to hear like the initiative that you took even outside of STEM, creating a STEM community, and sort of the whole goal is for community building and just for others to feel a sense of belonging to whereas otherwise they would kind of feel outcasted in a sense. And I think that it was a similar conversation that Aya and I were having on the idea of women in business at the same time. So kind of pivoting, shifting gears here, I'd love to know your sort of insights, Aya, on women in business and how the disparities are in that field that you've noticed personally, and what you do to go about it and inspire those that want to be like you or could be like you, but aren't, just because of inherent societal sort of paradigms that are in place today.
Great questions. So I started my first business when I was 17, and I'm now 22, and I have 5 businesses. Why? Because I would start one, stop, start another one, stop, start another one, stop. And why did I do that? It's because no one took me seriously at the time, and I failed a lot because there were no resources for me. I felt like I had no support. Although like I was very young, I felt like it was because I was a woman, because the rooms that I would be in and the people I would meet, all males. Like, I don't think I had ever collaborated with a woman until I was like 21, and I've been in the business field for like 6 years now. And it's super unfortunate because I go to all of these events, and majority of the public speakers are males. Majority of the people leading everything are males. So not to hate on Web Summit, but I was just at Web Summit with Rakib, actually. That's where we actually met, in Qatar, which is like one of the largest tech conferences in the world. And it was amazing, an amazing experience. And I just remember, so basically like it's a huge conference, and then there's like a speaker's lounge. So I'm in the speaker's lounge and I'm just talking about what I do. And my friend takes a picture of me. And I look at the picture when I go home, and it's literally me standing talking about myself, and around me were literally 10 guys. Just all, there was not a girl in sight. And I'm zooming into the picture. I'm like, why are there no girls in the speakers lounge? Like, this is insane. So I looked at the website, and I forget the exact number, but this year at Web Summit there were 290 male speakers and only 77 female speakers. And literally like 80% of those female speakers were moderators. So they weren't even speaking about themselves. They were the ones asking the men the questions, right? And I don't think Web Summit is at any fault here. I think it's us, and like we need more girls and more female founders and more people like leading and taking strides in business. And when we talk about SDG 5, we talk about what, like systemic issues like limited access to education, the gender pay gap, all that stuff. But I really think that going into like our topic, that AI and technology has a huge power to accelerate change in business. But what I think needs to happen is we don't need to be the users of AI. And same with business. I think that women need to be in the forefront of creating it, right? So, and the same with business. Like we need more female founders and representatives and more girls to say, okay, I want to speak about what I did. Because right now men are dominating 290 to 77, or like I would say about 30 female speakers this year, because the rest were just moderators. So I think that we need to get more involved in business because it's getting really lonely over here. But yeah.
That's amazing. And the way you put it, absolutely. Very, very motivating, even coming from someone that's not a woman, but who kind of is used to, I guess, subconsciously in the back of my mind, if I am walking into a business sort of setting, it's a VC sort of setting or anything, I kind of subconsciously expect them to be a guy, an older sort of white guy, or not to, yeah, and just being very, very frank, it's not something that works at the forefront of my mind to think about, oh, what kind of person this he or she may be. It's usually what kind of person he may be, and I kind of just subconsciously accept it. But yeah, that's where kind of the systemic push comes from, where you're just so used to a disparity that now is not a gap, but a norm. And Alexa, I'd love to bring your perspective in here from sort of the policy lens as a global goals ambassador, as someone involved very heavily in the Hill as well as the Department of State here in the United States. What are some ways that you think policy can drive change in this field filled with a lot of these examples of disparity that you, I'm sure, have noticed firsthand as well? And how do you think AI or technology plays a role in making a positive impact in it?
Okay, so I'll answer your first question about policy, and then we go to AI. So the thing is about like in my field, which is national security, it's predominantly male. Like if you look up the retrospective of like national security, like women weren't really involved in it, but like now, like when we see, you know, the women's peace and security agenda established, and we see more women representing in the field of national security, we could see like, you know, how the importance of having more female involvement, especially when it comes to topics like the prevention of gender-based violence, the prevention of human trafficking. You know, like we women could actually bring in better policies and perspectives when it comes to all of these things. So especially right now that WPS is something that we always talk about, especially the ongoing war in Ukraine, where, you know, predominantly of the people suffering are women and girls. And it's something that we actually talked about a lot in government, and NGOs, and IGOs as well, like in the UN. I know like it's a big topic right now. You could really see the essence of having more women's, you know, women speakers, women leaders and stuff. And just like, you know, just sharing like my experience, you know, even in school, like in AU, as a global security major, I'm in a foreign policy and intelligence class. We're only 3 women in that class. And the thing is, I remember like speaking to some of my male classmates who are mostly ex-military. I was talking about like, you know, the importance of women's peace and security, the importance of the prevention of gender-based violence in policy. And some of them don't really see the essence of it. Some of them are just like, oh, that's more of a governance issue. That's not really a security issue, which is really concerning. So I remember like doing my presentation when I was talking about like women's peace and security and stuff. That's when they realized like, hey, this is an actual security issue. But if you kind of look at it, like it wasn't really like natural in their ideologies where they actually thought that, you know, gender-based violence is actually a security issue, is something that we need to talk about. Like I had to present on a topic about it and actually like convince them that it's an actual issue. And the thing is, unfortunately, that's what's going on right now. There's still a lot of people who are still not educated about like the importance of women's empowerment, the importance of the WPS agenda. So I would say that I think like there is a really huge amount of like women speaking about it, which is actually, you know, comparing to like the past, it's actually better right now because we have a lot of women talking about it. But even then, I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. And that's what I always include in policy, that, you know, we need like more capacity building programs. We need more people educated about the importance of WPS. We can't just like limit it to like just in closed door conversations, because the thing is like we need to improve our communication about like the women's peace and security agenda, the importance of, you know, having more leaders in national security. Because if you like talk to just like, you know, the regular person, like even in my school, there are some women who don't see themselves as a security professional. Which is, I mean, you know, you can't force it on someone, but the thing is like, if you look at the majority of the population of who wants to really be in the security field, they're always men. And the thing is, since like now we're like advocating about SDG 5, we're advocating about women's empowerment. I think like there should be an improvement of the balance between men and women who could be in security, so that we could actually learn from one another and, you know, share different perspectives. And that's how we could like you know, create really good policy if we have different perspectives in the table. And that's what I always tell people. The thing is about policy takes it takes a while to actually get implemented. So, you know, you have to be patient about it, especially with the bureaucracy and everything like that. And relating this to my, you know, my experience as an advocate, you know, like that's the reason why I'm so inspired to talk about like women's rights, to actually specialize in women's rights, because this topic is not, it's not really as focused as the other topics. Sometimes people just forget that, hey, we need to prioritize women's rights, because we need to, you know, if we're doing public service, like we have to like speak for the whole population, not just half of the population, because if you're doing public service, you can't just like, you know, speak for, you know, a small community. Like you have to serve everyone. So you always have to bring that into the table, and especially, and that's where like women's rights plays a role in it. Yeah, so that's was when I saw like the increasing amount of inequality in leadership, when I saw, you know, the conflicts around the world, when you see the conflict in Ukraine, the conflicts in Africa, it's always women who are suffering the consequences of this. So like if we don't have like female like policymakers when it comes to all of these things, then the policies that we incorporate, especially when it comes to security and like military operations, it's just not going to work out. So so that when I saw that, that's what inspired me to actually be in this field, and to actually be the representation for like women in national security. Yeah, and your question about AI, the thing is like there's a lot of biases online, especially you know, just like going back to what I was saying with the WPS agenda. When I talk to people, they're just like, oh, it's not really like a priority. It's not, you know, I've seen something like, I don't know, on like TikTok or like an Instagram, that it's not really a big thing. Like when they see like the statistics of like the situation that's going on in Ukraine, for example, or the situation that's going in like South Sudan. I remember someone told me like it's not that bad. Like there's not nothing's like happening there. But when you actually see the real statistics, if you look at like academic articles, if you look at like research papers coming in from universities, you could see that there's a big amount of like data that's provided that, you know, that women are suffering from GBV. And the thing is, the misinformation that they're receiving online is really concerning. So especially you know, with the conflict going on right now, like especially with Russia, you know, leading campaigns that actually focus on using AI as a tool to spread disinformation is concerning. And that's one of the things that, you know, and especially these things are posted on social media. And the thing is, a lot of people get their sources on social media. So I think that's like the disadvantages of like how AI plays a role in foreign policy. So yeah, so I think right now, like I always believe in the responsibility of the you know, the to be responsible on the use of AI, especially when it comes to posting information online. You know, you have to like be accurate of what you have to be accurate, and you have to be like truthful in what you're posting about. You have to be credible as well. Yeah, so I also advocate about that, the responsible use of AI and how it like affects our security. So
Got it. Thank you so much for sort of a policy lens on the disparity between the different genders that are out there, as well as sort of a technological lens on the different parts of this disparity and kind of highlighting it. Thank you so much. Now I want to bring in kind of to add another dimension, if there wasn't enough in this conversation, a sort of international perspective. As Diana, were the Brazilian delegation, part of the Brazilian delegation at the United Nations headquarters a couple weeks ago for CSW. So how was your experience? Kind of walk us through your experience at CSW and being a part of the Brazilian delegation. How did you see the women and gender disparities from an international lens? How is it different here versus the rest of the world, particularly in the global South, where the disparities are only more exacerbated because of the other disparities that just add on and stack on top of each other?
Yeah, sure. So I've been involved in the UN this year and last year. I went to CSW last year, but as a civil society member, not as Brazilian, not part of the Brazilian delegation. And something that really needs to change at CSW is the representation. Because let me tell you, it's insane. Because it's a conference about women's rights, and this year was the revision of Beijing Plus 30, and we still saw a lot of men talking about girls' issues and a lot of not girls talking about girls' issues. So there's a lack of young people at CSW, and this is really bad, especially young people from the global south. Um, I could be in the delegation because I was working a lot with the Minister of Women. As I said, I did a study for them about how hard it is for girls to access education. So at CSW, my focus on was going to UNICEF events that talked about education and access, girls accessing quality education. Because in Brazil, we have this great disparity in private institutions, not public institutions, because public institutions are really hard to get into Brazil. So people from low income level and also marginalized groups cannot get into public institutions, which is kind of a little bit messy because you would think public institutions it's free, but it's the other like way around. They're really hard to get in. So the most accessible institutions for them are private institutions, and they cannot really access that because of societal roots that discriminate between girls and boys in Brazil. So I brought this study to the minister, and I talked about that at CSW. But as a youth delegate, I could talk to other youth delegates from different countries. And it is really, really sad to see the lack of Global South presence. So UN Women organized a talk with all the youth delegates that was part of delegations. And it was mainly everyone from Europe and me and my other friends who did the study with me from Brazil and one other girl from Chile, and the rest of it was from Europe. So you can see how bad it is from people from the Global South. Also, they did a panel on the Global South about young people, and my country, Brazil, didn't set anyone to talk in that panel about young people, so we didn't have a perspective on Brazil on that panel. So it was the youth panel without a Brazilian perspective because there was no youth to talk about in the panel because they didn't select anyone. So there's a lack of interest in governments to take this accountability on young people and let them talk and let them use their voice because they know what it is to be a girl in Brazil. They know how hard it is for us to access education. We know that. and they are not like on our skin to know what we are going on. They are formulating the policies, but they don't ask us what what is on our vision to do the policy. So that's a huge issue. Another issue at CSW is that the youth forum is not inside the headquarters, it's outside. So that's really bad. So it seems that the UN is kind of excluding young people from being inside the headquarters. They're kind of like lifting to be outside. So that's a main issue at the UN. And also, it's really hard for you to be a young girl in the United Nations headquarters because people don't respect you. Either government officials or the staff, they don't see you as a respectable person. People say to me that I look like a 14-year-old. So people would say like, what is this 14-year-old doing in the UN? Well, what would she's like, she's not supposed to be here. And this feeling that you're not supposed to be in there kind of like sticks into your head and makes you feel like undeserved to be in spaces like this. And this needs to change. So that's kind of like the perspectives, and of course, not being able to get into a lot of different rooms. They're having a lot of different events that you're supposed to have. My friend that was going with me, she had a lot of issues on getting into rooms that the Brazilian delegation was supposed to meet. And once they see their credential that sees written like Brazilian delegation, they're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. But they're just like discriminating, looking at her face and seeing that she's a young person, she's Black and she's from a marginalized community. So they don't let her into the room. So this societal and these root biases are happening in the UN. I think before coming to the UN, I used to think that they were such this high level organization that there was no issues with that, but actually there are a lot of issues. I think there are a lot of issues everywhere you go. But CSW was really important. We could pass the resolution actually on the first day. Let's see if countries will follow. I don't know. We don't have a legally like binding agreement for them to follow. But the Beijing plus 30 was really important with the 12 goals. So yeah, we'll see.
Got it. Thank you so much. And that was very interesting. Yeah, I did realize the youth office was the youth forum was outside the main campus of the UN headquarters, and personally, but where you're from on the exclusion of certain groups. The idea that you bring in disparity, not even just being gender-based, but also having an intergenerational perspective to it. So different generations having a different sort of approach to these disparities to people, and in turn amplifying these disparities was very cool. And to kind of understand and see what you were saying, and from a first person perspective at the UNHQ in New York. One thing that kind of came to my mind when you said, yes, they are developing solutions and these resolutions, the strategies that they are developing for these countries to follow through, without the representation of, let's say, in your case, Brazilian women who are literally supposed to be there, or women in general, it kind of brings the idea of coming from tech. A lot of what happens is the global West, or the Western world, as we call it, tends to develop a lot of different technological innovation and solutions for the global South to kind of help us, or help those disproportionately left behind to be uplifted and whatnot. And except nobody asked the global South, yo, do you guys need this solution? So they will develop something that no one ever asked for, and it instead just goes to waste. Forget the technology itself. It's billions of tax dollars that kind of just make the whole thing worse. So the importance of just importance of it, including those who you're developing the solutions for, is only more amplified in what you said. And I would love to give the rest of our audience a chance as well on developing on this particular insight on having proper inclusion, because it only gives the right views for the end user who you want the solution to benefit. And another thing that kind of comes to my mind that I want to get to, I'm just saying, so it's in your minds as well at some point soon, is more of a it's a question we'll definitely get to in a few minutes, to Sanskriti and Sananshi, coming from very much the technical side of things here as a woman, as women in STEM. The idea of ChatGPT and other sort of generative AI models that when they initially came around in their infancy earlier this year / last year, a lot of gender bias that we could see in the generated responses. For example, one thing that I noticed as part of a part of a slight kind of work that I was doing based on image generation was when you look up like a beautiful woman, it's usually white, it's usually blonde, or something that this model has been fed with years and decades of data that is now pointing our eyes directly to the disparity that this model is showing us. A lot of us kind of blamed, or a lot of the industry blamed the model to be flawed. My opinion, and I would love to know both of yours as well, the model was never flawed. The model worked exactly as it was intended to, and it showed you the disparities that were there in the data that was out there in the world. So yeah, I'm gonna let it brew in your mind while I come around to Kome. For your sort of, I saw a few head nods to Diana's perspective that you had. I'd love for you to add on to the insights from an international perspective, or going from America to New York, with as in staying home. But how did you feel at CSW, and do you agree with some of the insights that Diana brought in?
Yes, thanks, Rakib. And I'm really sorry, Diana, that you and your friends had to face some of those divide as well in the UN. Well, so Alexa here is my friend, and over time we do have conversations like that about, oh my God, they really look down on us, and sometimes it's just annoying because you're trying to be in the space and advocate, and then some really older person is just going to be like, you're wasting your time, and you're most likely, so it can be really discouraging, especially as a woman. To me particularly, and not just a woman, but an African woman and a woman of color, you have like a very limited landscape in certain places like that. So you go into rooms and there really nobody that's like you, look like you, wear your kind of hair, most likely have your kind of accent. So sometimes you're kind of struggling mentally and putting yourself in that position. But I would say that this year, my involvement with the at the CSW was a bit different, and it was really very key. I was very open to conversations, not just pertaining to women's security, but AI, digital tools, and just the digital discrimination that we have or have seen. And one of the most common thing that and conversation that we're driving at the UN were conversations around addressing digital discrimination and technologies as well. But beyond that, it was really just that intersection between gender equality and technological innovation. Just like you said, Rakib, it's very unfortunate that we are leaning and driving so high into artificial intelligence, and we're not sure if we should embrace it or not, but whether we like it or not, AI is here to stay. And there's a lot of algorithm and data set, data visualization, model training that has to go into these different AI tools that are built by men mostly, and very lesser women who are in the room. And most of this AI tool are presumably supposed to work for women. And we're not there in the rooms where these models are written, where these data sets are fine-tuned, when these utterances are made. And those were some of the areas and addresses that I was bringing up at CSW 69, really discussing the relevance of artificial intelligence and how can we potentially dismantle the barrier of gender equality, once we're raising from increasing women, economic empowerment through digital transformation, and even access to quality healthcare and education, AI, like you said, these models don't look like you. These models cannot understand or relate to even the women that are utilizing it. And we're like, how can we really actively involve women and girls in design, in development, in governance, in AI technology? So I shared earlier that professionally I work as a product manager, and I've been in a lot of recruiting exercises where I sit to recruit new candidates, and in a seat of 10, I most likely am not seeing women come into those interviews. And I'm asking what's going on. And not a lot of women are in technology, not a lot of women are in STEM. In fact, data has showed us that we have less than 1.8% of women in AI, and that's really crazy. And so you sit in that room with a lot of men who are deciding the future of the tool that has become widely accepted and widely used, and less women who are contributing to that too. And when you think about how can we utilize AI for even the gender equality, things like maternity leave, women, just things that are related to women in general, but the women aren't the one who are building this. So right there at the UN, these were some of the things that I was unveiling to the group. And it was really saddening to know that in a room filled with women, not even a lot of women were knowledgeable enough about the subject matter, or even knew that it was important for them to take proactive steps. So I remember starting the conversation with, how many of you have been in spaces where AI tools are being built? And we probably were maybe 2 or 3. And I'm opportune to be in one because I work for an AI software company where, we're at the core building AI tools. So if I don't do that, probably I would be one of those women who's not there. And a lot of women and not sitting in places where they need to be. How can we bring the insight, to women? How can we be intentional about even exploring and harnessing AI to advance gender equality? Were more of the conversations that I was driving at the UN during the CSW 69, and even post, coming back to the UNA NCA, where as part of my chapter, and letting the team know that we really need to do something to the young professionals that we are part of. We need to create engagement. We need to continue and foster this conversation, because it doesn't end with the Women History Month or, celebrating women and we feel like we want to have these conversations. How can we go further? Like Aya said, she sits in conferences as a businesswoman, and there are no woman like her that is really pulling or racing, or who she's going to look up to as mentor, or even a mentor. So these are conversations that I think we need to take a little further. And I'm excited that we're having this conversation at the Center of Artificial Intelligence. And I'm really looking forward to the future of artificial intelligence in enhancing and promoting gender equality.
Lovely to hear your thoughts as well. I will go ahead and take these last few minutes as we have of the conversation to open the floor up to our audience who might have some questions or insights that they'd like to share or connect with the panelists here. It's actually very, very cool to see people from the business field like Kome yourself, as well as business owners, young business owners like Aya, as well as women in STEM, Sanskriti and Sananshi. Thank you for being here, Alexa and Diana, kind of bringing in the international / the policy lens into our conversation. And I'm excited to see what the audience has to say. Logan, you had your hand raised. The floor is yours.
Hi, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk about these topics tonight. I really appreciate it. This is kind of a more niche topic, but access to good healthcare was mentioned, and I was wondering if any of you could comment on how AI could be used to reduce gender-based disparities in medical diagnosing and treatment. Women experience significantly lower diagnosis rates with mental health, with heart conditions, with autoimmune conditions. And so I was just wondering how AI can contribute to reducing that disparity.
I can answer that, and then somebody can take over if I miss something up. But so I do research with the radiation oncology lab here at UCLA, and we have sort of found out that we do not have reliable models, especially when it comes to women. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the major steps ahead action items is probably collecting more data, which is more specific to women. And this is something that Rocky brought up, how ChatGPT in itself is not very reliable when it comes to showing or representing women. But I think it's unfair to disparage the model considering the historical context under which it was created. And we should be more empathetic, more forgiving. And I feel like the inclusion itself and representation is a very shallow inclusion because it's still very much deep-seated in the way we run things in every single industry. So the change is going to be really gradual, and we are trying. But again, it's going to start at the grassroots and then expand from there because, again, AI models need a lot of feeder data, without which they won't be reliable. So I think from your own level, if you are a student, then I would recommend that you make people aware of it, because most of the times it happens as an unconscious bias that people do not take into consideration the different intersectional participation when it comes to clinical trials. So just make sure that you campaign for it, which is something that we've been trying to do. And another issue is social conditioning and just the consciousness. ChatGPT, etc., they do not have this consciousness, but we can teach it, just like we can teach humans how to be conscious and aware of things that we might be ignorant about. I think AI works in very similar ways. So if we tell it, okay, make sure that there are equal data sets for men and women, then even AI becomes conscious of making sure that there's enough representation and that it's not biased towards a certain section of society.
Thank you so much. And Brooke, you had your hand raised. Just want to make sure, just a quick heads up, we do have 2 to 3 more minutes left. So I'd really appreciate the questions being a little shorter. And our panel, thank you for your generous time. If you'd like to stick around for a few more minutes for the questions, that would be very, very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, Brooke. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just want to say, especially what happened to, well, what Kome and what Diana were experiencing, it's really unfortunate that, there are closed doors for certain genders. I actually wanted to ask upon, within these closed doors, do you guys ever see AI somewhat being an equalizer in the sense that even though these doors are closed, AI could be brought in and it could maybe eventually, embody or represent women's ideals, even in behind these closed doors, hopefully eventually leading to more female representatives being brought for their perspectives in these rooms. And I don't know, what your perspective is in terms of, AI being a representative or equalizer for gender representation within these closed doors.
Sanskriti, I see your mic. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. So I'm excited to take this one because as a woman in STEM and someone who's been behind those closed doors and like seeing the gender disparity that exists, I think I have a unique perspective on this. I think technology is just a tool. And I love the show Black Mirror because the title itself tells you what technology is. It's a reflection of our society. And so I don't think that artificial intelligence will ever be a replacement for women being inside of the room. But what we can do is create solution-based technology and bring all of the people in the room to build that technology to be able to solve those solutions. And so when it comes to those closed doors and policy making and making those changes, the only clear solution is to make sure that people are represented and those voices are heard. Because it's very easy to say like, oh, we're gonna, create this AI bot and poll all of these women or poll all of these people and have them at the table. But really, at the end of the day, the decision makers are the people at the table, not the technology. And so I think it's really important to keep that human aspect there because oftentimes AI and quantum computing are buzzwords that get really easy to get tracked away with. But you have to go back to the people and the impact that you're having. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kome, yeah.
Oh yes, I was going to just, add to that because when we hear AI, it feels like some very foreign thing, but we forget that it's garbage in, garbage out, is what you give in, is what it's going to give back. But while AI could actually, to an extent, be good, we need to understand that the diverse and equitable data sets that are accurately represented by all genders have to be imputed. And just as we said earlier, women have to be at the table where this algorithm and data sets are being imputed. It has to, because if men are feeding it, men are going to feed in data set that they assume it to be. So you have to put in utterance, you have to train the model, but you can only train the model with what you think is accurate for women, not necessarily what it is. So at the end of the day, if AI isn't built with the right people in the room, it's still going to give us the same thing. So I don't think it's going to solve that problem. It could be a fairly unbiased to say, I can't really identify a name, Sam. So I'm not sure if Sam is female or male, but it doesn't really solve the problem.
I just wanted to add something. Like AI can never understand what happens inside the low income, like the marginalized communities, like in Brazil. You can never, like, if you're not there, you don't understand what's happening there. So it can never replace these people. You can never do that because as Kome said, they don't understand what it's like to be in the skin of someone who's actually lived that situation. So I think it wouldn't be able to replace this type of people. Yeah.
Absolutely. The importance of kind of being present at the table itself carries a lot more weight than a lot of us kind of realize. Michelle, yeah.
Hi, Rakib. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being panelists and all the great insight. And I think this leads into the previous question that was asked. It's more so the people at the table that's driving the decisions. I'm wondering, I want to get your perspectives on what frameworks you think, like what may already be in place. I know AI is kind of like the Wild West now. Like it's popular. Companies are rapidly developing AI tools. What standards are currently in place, and what standards can the UN or even companies or nations work on to protect women or other minority groups in the field, and hopefully lead to better outcomes in the future in that space? Thank you.
I could take that. The thing is, I think especially like when it comes to the responsible use of AI, I think there should be transparency laws. So governments could like talk to AI companies to disclose like content that that they flag as like disinformation. And also, I think government could also speak to social media companies like Facebook, Meta, TikTok, and to like talk to them about like trying to like trying to like look at content that is spreading disinformation and could do something about it. Yeah, so I think that's a way to actually like prevent propaganda and disinformation from escalating, especially because AI is such a powerful tool right now. Like you could literally just like edit a video, or you could edit someone's voice and like make it look like this person is saying something that happened in the previous election. I know that Russian propaganda has been spreading like during the latest election, and like they made it look like Biden was like speaking on the phone to like a voter to actually not vote that day, and they used AI to actually do that. I think by improving cybersecurity, improving policies when it comes to AI, especially right now that AI is such a new thing in policy and in security, we need more policymakers on that, and we need more voices on that. And I think that could be done as if we continue doing like capacity building, like educating people about like how AI is related to foreign policy and how it could affect our national security, how it could affect governance. I think by giving in like the proper education, we could actually empower people to do that. But anyways, so right now we are working on like capacity building programs, and now like AI is becoming like a priority in policy. Yeah, we're talking about the importance of transparency laws and the importance of like speaking to different social media companies about it. Yeah, so I think these things are something that could like promote the responsible use of AI. And yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Hi, guys. So, unfortunately, I do have to go super soon because I have a meeting. But I wanted to say that this was amazing. It was so nice meeting you guys. I wanted to do a little self shameless plug and say this was my first time speaking here. So I didn't know how fast paced it was, by the way. Like I did not think it was gonna strictly be an hour, but it's like really cool and it's so interesting it was so interesting to hear what everyone had to say, and I learned so much just from such a short window of time. But I wanted to say that um because of the timing, I didn't like properly stay in depth of everything that I do. And maybe something relevant to what you guys are all talking about, if you guys wanted to look like deeper into it, is I am the co-founder of an AI crypto app that actually is running on quantum AI mechanics, and we're partnered with MIT and Georgia Tech and Caltech and all of these tech schools, and we're the first ever social media app to be operating on quantum AI mechanics. So this app is actually launching later this year, and actually like a month and a half. It was supposed to launch in April, but we just had a few tweaks, and it's called Verse, which is short for universe. So this is one of the things I do, and I would love to have like more time to explain it, but that's what I do on social media. So I do TikTok, and I also started a podcast called Business Princess, because if you guys look at my TikTok, I'm going to link my link tree actually if you guys want to take a look at anything. But on my TikTok, I post day in the life of like a business owner and stuff like that. So I got a lot of comments being like, do you have networking tips? What is this about AI? How are you a woman in business? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, this is like all new to me. Like 2 weeks ago, I started a podcast called Business Princess, where I answer everyone's questions about what I do in depth. I talk all about AI and tech and like empowering women and youth on there. So maybe this is fitting for what you guys are looking for. I hope this works. But if you also just Google my first name and my last name, it'll come up. Like there's a website or something with more information on what I do. And hopefully that can also help, because I love helping others at the end of the day. So I wish we had more time to connect on like a deeper level, but unfortunately the hour's up.
No, absolutely. And thank you for sticking around. I was gonna tell afterwards, her podcast did come out yesterday. I saw her crash out live, but that's fine. It's out now. Thank you for sticking around. Yeah, no, Aya, thank you so much. And on that note, I definitely wanted to thank our panelists for sticking around for 10 more minutes. For those who have any more questions, in us a little post discussion sort of questions and networking. If you guys want to, I'll stick around for a little more virtually here. But I wanted to end the meeting for those who have other time commitments, just to be considerate of others' times. Thank you so much for everyone for being here. Diana, thank you. Alexa, Sanskriti, Sananshi. Thank you guys for being a part of this, Kome, as well. It was very cool to hear your perspectives on your walks through CSW at the United Nations, as well as your perspectives from a policy lens, international lens, and a STEM and business lens here with Aya as well. This was an incredible discussion with so many different dynamics. I can't wait to debrief afterwards with our drafting committee. And I will reach back out to our panelists afterwards. Thank you so much. And on that note, we are officially over. So feel free to go on about your days and don't want to take up any more of your Wednesday evening anymore. But for those who are willing, can totally stick around and chat. It's very informal afterwards. Thank you so much to everyone.
I saw Anna's hand up if she had a question still.
Oh, I didn't really have a question. I thought I would have a unique perspective to add to, since I do come from cybersecurity background, and once I did hear all of Alexa's thoughts and Diana's perspectives too, I was just thinking in my head and wanted to say that security architecture and design and designing security based on inclusivity and really focusing on that as a principle of human-centric design is an interesting topic, and is something that definitely should be looked into more if we're trying to create platforms with or using AI to serve the people as much as it can and maximize its potential. So security architecture and design was one thing that stood out to me. And I think design always comes from talking to the people first, and we're always told to get the answers out of the people, and the people are where the answers lie. So that was just one insight that I had. That's all. I didn't really have a question.
That is very cool. And I kind of want to add to a little bit of what you said with the idea, because um, well, the idea that we get from, like an HCDD or like the front end development or UI development sort of side that you and I kind of both come from. Um, it's it's it was a very cool insight that one of my friends brought in, was the idea that we're always taught to listen to the user or listen to those who we are building the solution for, and then build it for them. But then my friend, she offered a sort of like a new sort of perspective, and she goes, think about it. How about you not just listen to them, you let them build it? How more authentic would that get? Yeah, so I was like, that is very, very cool. Jen, I saw the head nod. I'd love for you to unmute. Did I steal yours?
No, I just feel like I'm skipping in line because I know there's other hands that have been up longer than mine. But hi, I'm Jen McCauley. I'm part of Nittany AI, and I have the pleasure of teaching Rakib in his undergraduate studies here at Penn State University. What I do in my day job with Nittany AI is enable students to do experiential learning related to AI, making impact with real AI projects in either nonprofits or for-profit situations. But what I wanted to add tonight, because I'm closer to my 50s than I'll ever be in my 20s at this point. I've had kids, so I've done maternity without maternity leave. I've been there for you all, paved the way, and I'm working so hard to hold space for women. But I need you all to show up, and I need you to show up and own it. Like, I can't tell you how many women I get in my experiential learning program that want to take an unpaid role, or they want to take a role of a business analyst instead of taking a role of a machine learning engineer or a LLM engineer. And that's the most frustrating thing I see, because they can run circles at times around the men, but the men will just say, I can do it. And the women will say, I'm not sure yet. Let me prove myself. And I need you to show up. So I don't know how that comes across in this panel, because you all seem like you've already owned it. But the more, and maybe this comes back to, I think it's Sanskriti who brought it up with the grassroots efforts, the more space you can hold for these women to grow in confidence, and the more you can boost them up, the faster we can change this dialogue from how do we make space to, they're here and they're able to build this. So touching on what you said, Rakib, they can build it and they should be building it.
Absolutely. Sanskrit, if you have anything to add, otherwise, Brooke, I think you had your hand up.
Honestly, I think that was just a great way to end the conversation. I don't know how else one could top that, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Mm.
Yeah, so the only thing I think I would add is there's a lot of cool initiatives that I wanted to highlight that provide this community for women. Girls Who Code, We STEM, Technovation, We Tech, Society of Women Engineers, Black Girls Who Code, American Association of University Women. So if you guys know women in STEM, or if you're a woman in STEM, join these organizations and they'll really help. And then if you're a guy, or please be a male ally. And being a male ally means not looking at a woman engineer through the lens of being a woman, looking at her through the lens of being an engineer. And that's what equality is. The story of technology is the story of women. The first computers were women. There's so many women scientists that did more or equivalent contributions to male scientists. We've just been lost to time. So please make sure to be proper allies. And thank you.
Absolutely. In the GPL labs context, that was very cool. The first computers were women. Yeah, that was very cool. Sananshi, yes.
I just wanted to echo what Sanskriti said, because even I'm the president of Association of Computing Machinery Women. Another thing that I've realized is it's not just women who need more representation, it's also other communities like the LGBTQ community, other races who are not represented as highly in tech. So I would recommend that, again, all of that applies to women, but at the same time applies to everybody who's not represented as much.
Absolutely. And wait, Diana, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add up on that. Thinking about AI and thinking about technology, I would like to say that to talk about the global south because there's a lot of young people, there's a lot of good people, good girls that never had access to technology, that never had access to AI, and they're eager to learn, but they don't have the tools to learn. They don't have anyone in their community that have access to technology. So to include these girls in your conversation, to include these girls that want to learn but don't have the tools, don't know anyone that can assist them in learning. I met several of them and they are amazing. They have what it takes, but they just don't have that opportunity. So expanding the knowledge, if you have that knowledge, expanding this type of knowledge. I don't have that knowledge. Like I'm not a STEM person, but helping the global south, like helping these girls in the global south to achieve this type of knowledge, I think is something that would be fulfilling and should be taken into consideration.
I'd love to add just a little bit to it that I have kind of already mentioned. We met at the Web Summit in Doha a few weeks ago in Qatar. And I was born and raised in Bangladesh. I only moved to the States with my family in 2016. And well, Bangladesh being what, like I think 200 million people, it's an absurdly crowded country, but it is still 200 million souls, and we, I think, have the highest number of migrant population working abroad in the West, in Europe, and different parts of the Middle East. And when I was in Qatar in Doha for the week, I realized I was actually the only Bengali speaker in all of the entire summit for a week, and there were multiple panels, I think 4 panels at a time going on in every 15-minute intervals or 15 or 30-minute intervals or so, which was absurd number of speakers, a few hundred speakers going on at the world's largest technology stage. And me being the only Bengali, I was like, I am definitely not the smartest Bengali alive. I have personally met significantly smarter people than me. And why are they not here? And kind of my pursuit of looking for fellow other Bangladeshi people, where are these migrant workers if they're all over the place in the Middle East? Well, I did find them, except not in the places that I really wanted to. At the speaker lounge, there were like like waiters and then people bringing you the food, the drinks. When you're in the restroom washing your hands, the person handing you the paper towel. Most of them are Bengalis. And I was like, where is a single other speaker? Well, they were totally in the speaker lounge, except they were the ones bringing you the food and not speaking with you. And yeah, and I kind of approached a few of them and asked if where they were from and everything. And it was very, very inspirational to really see the privilege that a lot of us kind of have, to even sit here in an air-conditioned room with a roof on top of our head and a stable Wi-Fi to talk about these issues. So I personally just see it as a moral obligation on us. To uplift those that were disproportionately left behind for circumstances that were very much beyond their control. And then I really appreciate you kind of bringing in the global South perspective as someone from there as well. Very much resonates with me, and I'm sure I was not the only one and the entire panel that we had today. But yeah, no, just wanted to share that, and I thought that was very inspiring, even just for me. And I try my best to kind of be a voice of reason for those bringing me the food, and not just sipping on it or just chilling there, and not speaking with them, and just being able to extend an arm of assistance or motivation, any way that you are able to make them smile and make them realize that they are a lot more than they where they